And we are live. How's everybody doing this evening? My name is Andrew Smith. I am joined by co-host Misty Winston and our wonderful guest Kevin Gasztola. We do have some really important information to talk about. Kevin's going to be going through the whistleblower Joshua Schultz, alleged whistleblower Joshua Schultz's situation. But before that, I do want to do the numbers with everybody. So we have 3,864 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange. 828 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the US and the UK for a $4.2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund to the nation of Ecuador. We have 191 days since Vanessa Breitzer's January 6th ruling denying Julian Assange bail after personally ordering his release and ruling no extradition in his case. We have 1,420 days of inhumane detention for the alleged Vault 7 whistleblower Joshua Schultz, and at least 981 of those days has been spent under special administrative measures. We have 827 days of political persecution for Ola Binney, a friend of Julian Assange's, by the hands of the Ecuadorian government. In some recent disturbing news, we have 32 days since Commander X was illegally taken out of Mexico in rendition to the United States. We are going to be having Steve join us at the top of the hour to talk about the actions that are planned around his court case coming up next Tuesday. But the three bright spots that we have 35 days since whistleblower Reality Winner was moved to house arrest and is expected to be put on parole November 23rd, 2021, assuming good behavior. We have 408 days of freedom for Chelsea Manning, who's still regularly streaming on Twitch. We have 130 days free of incarceration and halfway houses for Jeremy Hammond, although he is still on a tight parole. But with that, I do want to, again, thank everybody for joining us. And how are you today, Misty?
I'm good. I'm a mermaid. I got my hair done today, and my guy has always wanted to do crazy colors on somebody, and he said nobody would ever let him do it, and I honestly don't care. So I'm like, do it. And so he did, and so I'm a mermaid, and I feel good about it. It's fun, you know? I don't know. I'm probably getting too old for this shit, but I don't care. It's fun.
You gotta do all you can.
Yeah, why not? Why not? My kids are jealous. I'm now cool, according to my kids, so that's all that really matters. But I'm excited to talk about some of these other cases that have been going on. We've been wanting to dive into them for a long time. So Kevin, I'm really glad that you're here. This is Kevin Gasztola. He's a friend of the show. He's an amazing independent journalist. He's the editor at Shadowproof. You guys should definitely check out his work and support independent media, please. He does great coverage of, Julian Assange's case, obviously, but also other whistleblowers and press freedom cases and all of that stuff. So definitely.
1 second.
He just lost power or something. His lights just went.
My internet goes out 30 minutes. His power's getting
It's
cut.
always something, man. It's always something. Whether it's a cat fighting back here. Yeah, that's all right. It's all right. Technical difficulties. That's all right. It's cool. But thank you for being here.
Better than me sitting here like a dumbass idiot just pretending like nothing happened.
That would have been pretty funny, actually.
Did the lights go off? No, everything's perfectly fine.
So Kevin was on fax one time, and his wife crawled across the background, trying to be sneaky, and that was one of my favorite moments ever on camera.
That was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, it was great.
So actually, one of my favorite times that we had, Kevin, when we were doing the discussion of Julian's court trial live, and you hopped in during intermission, and we were all just like exhausted,
really tired,
like 6 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, "This is like Clerks. Like we shouldn't even have to be here today."
Yeah.
Like I just,
No,
I felt like
those early mornings,
that month really
those early mornings were such comedy gold. I still want to go back and get clips of all of that stuff because everybody was so tired and you guys had no idea what was happening. And it was great. It was really entertaining, actually. A lot of it.
I know we have to be serious, but I feel like this levity is probably healthy for people who feel this is so sucking of everything inside of them. But you know, when I logged into court every morning, when anybody logged into court virtually every morning, they got to see what we all look like when we roll out of bed. Like that immediate moment after you hit the floor, after you leave the mattress. And like I had no lights on and I looked like I was in a cave. And but you know, I didn't realize this until like 2 weeks into the extradition trial, that when we checked in with the court, they were broadcasting our image to everyone. Juan Passarelli told me that like Kevin is hilarious in the morning when you come in. You come in and you're like, your eyes are not like wide open. You look like you need a cup of coffee. And I was just like, I had no idea you all could see us. Like,
that's amazing.
That's really kind of mean that we're not just like seeing the person in court, but like everyone who's a journalist got to see us.
All your morning glory.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's great, because that whole process and time period was literally like torturous for the reporters involved with what was demanded. Like, just the articulacy of what you guys were having to do that early in the morning was impressive.
Yeah, kudos to you, dude. Trying to live tweet and take notes and try to stay focused, and it's super early in the morning. I mean, seriously, kudos to you for, and thank you for doing it, because that's the only coverage that we were able to get. Like, you know, this was all done behind closed doors, and it was very, you know, there was no transparency whatsoever. So that's really the only coverage that we were able to get. So seriously, thanks for doing it. I know it sucked. It had to. But yeah, you're right though. We have to laugh. Like Andrew and I were just talking about, we talk about it all the time, actually. It's a coping mechanism. We have to find shit to laugh about. Otherwise we would go insane, if we haven't already gone insane, honestly. But yeah. So maybe we should start with who Joshua, is it Schultz or Schulte? I'm never really sure how to pronounce it because everybody does it different.
I'm going to say Schulte.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll say Schulte. If it's wrong, somebody can correct me. But nobody knows because nobody covers this case, so we can say his name however we want. The only person who knows is Matthew Lee, who is covering it for Inner City Press and has been doggedly covering it independently as a reporter who covers almost a ton of cases that come through the Southern District of New York. So I'm just plugging. If you go look for this case, Matthew Lee's Inner City Press will pop up. He's got transcripts that have been posted, and he's got little postings about what has happened on some of the court dates in the past year and a half. And he also did coverage of the trial. There was a trial in February 2020, right before the pandemic shut everything down in this country. So they managed to get that in, and that ended in a mistrial. So the most important thing for everybody to know about Joshua Schulte isn't really, you know, who he is, although we can get into that a little bit. But the most important thing is that this U.S. government, the Justice Department, is so committed to this prosecution that they actually issued a superseding indictment in the summer of 2020 to continue on and bring Josh to trial again. And that is scheduled for October. We have a October 2021 trial date for him. And he's going to be representing himself, it looks like, because he decided to get rid of two of his attorneys. I think he had two attorneys. He got rid of both of them, including the one who did some good work representing him back in the February trial. So that sort of establishes a little bit of the basics. And when we talk about Josh, we're talking about the person who's alleged to have disclosed the Vault 7 materials. So, you know, maybe before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'll just remind people what this was, like this moment, and what it was and why. What I want to say is that I don't think the U.S. government has actually proven that he is the source adequately. In fact, his attorney, her name was, and she's the one who is no longer going to be representing him, Sabrina Schroff. She said, according to Matthew Russell Lee, that the CIA did not want these documents published. And in fact, they have no idea how they were leaked. And they also do not know when, why, or who leaked the documents. I'm basically paraphrasing. But this was part of her opening statement. And her quote was, "All they know is WikiLeaks published the information on March 7, 2017. That's it. And from what we can tell, and again, these are her words, they picked out some pain in the ass. She referred to Josh as a pain in the ass. And they decided that he has to be the person who's the source of the documents. and they've just been hammering him hard one day after another. And he is under special administrative measures, which gives us a glimpse at the kind of treatment someone like Julian Assange could experience if he was brought to the US, which is probably, more so than the fact that he's been linked to WikiLeaks through this prosecution. What's more significant to me is that we actually get to see playing out what it's like for a national security defendant, somebody accused of a leak. It's possible for us to use his case as that example for how Julian could be treated if he was brought to US soil. So that, to me, is actually the biggest thing I think we should spend our time on, looking at some of the conditions that he's been going through. But I'll let you both get back in here. But just to say that the Vault 7 materials that we're talking about, when I reference them, I usually highlight these key disclosures, which is the fact that there were programs that existed like Weeping Angel that made it possible for the CIA to attack Samsung F8000 TVs and convert them into spying devices. This publication brought scrutiny to the CIA having this fleet of hackers that was targeting smartphones and computers. And what's interesting about these disclosures, by the way, is that they really had a kind of synergy with the disclosures from Edward Snowden. I mean, what we had learned about the NSA, it turns out the CIA actually has some of those cyber warfare operations ongoing as well, and perhaps with even less oversight. The CIA, according to CNBC, had 14 zero-day exploits, which were software vulnerabilities that had no fix yet, and the agency used them to hack Apple's iOS devices, such as iPads and iPhones. And the documents showed that those exploits were shared with organizations like the NSA and GCHQ, which is, of course, the British spy agency. And the CIA did not tell Apple about these vulnerabilities. And actually, that made news, along with the fact that the CIA had targeted Microsoft Windows and Signal and WhatsApp users with malware. So these things made headlines. And as much as people wanted to make a big deal and say that, like, oh, WikiLeaks published the crown jewels of the CIA, they published these sensitive documents and exposed operations that the government needs in order to do blah, 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 blah. That was the kind of thing we had as a reaction from most of the media to the Vault 7. Well, what they don't go back and remind people of is that there were actual revelations in the documents that tech companies responded to, because it showed that the CIA was owning their devices and going after their software and hardware. And again, this kind of thing that makes it hard for you to make promises to consumers, because you can't guarantee that their privacy is going to be protected. Because if the CIA can get into it, then it also means that any other hacker can get into it. It doesn't mean that just the CIA is in your device or some government is in your device. It means that people who are just, your everyday, whatever, amateur hacker can try to get into your device as well.
And didn't Julian try to work with these tech companies to make them aware of these vulnerabilities and help them fix it? Wasn't that part of what he had done before Vault 7 was actually fully disclosed?
It's possible. But what I know of this story is that in the aftermath, while he was still in the embassy, there was discussion about how he could hammer out some kind of an agreement with the Justice Department so that he could provide testimony to Congress. It would have been the Senate Intelligence Committee, so that they could have evidence that would go to the Russia investigation. And I think part of, so I think I know what you're saying. So yeah, I think he was at one point willing to hold back some of the documents and was willing to not publish everything. He was willing to talk with members of Congress about the materials. But the key thing here was that a Senator Mark Warner in Virginia nixed it, even though there were ongoing conversations, and said that he wasn't going to do it, even though Julian was willing to offer, his side of the timeline as far as some of the alleged hacking events of 2016 and 20 of that during the presidential campaign, which we don't need to go through again. But yes, you're right.
So with Joshua Schultz, just so I know that I have this clear, he was held pre-trial, and then his original trial ended in a mistrial, and he's being held under pre-trial special administrative measures a second time, and it started in October of 2019, I believe. So by the time he goes to court for the second time, he'll have been held under special administrative measures for a full 2 calendar years.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone over special administrative measures in depth on the show a couple different times, and I think everybody knows that that's essentially hell on earth.
Yeah. So I don't think he's ever been released from the designation. It was Bill Barr who placed him under SAMS, and he's at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, which is, a atrocious and god-awful place. Not that any prison is a great place to be, but he's written several handwritten letters about what's going on. And then I covered in January the challenge to his cruel confinement, where he basically argued that what he was enduring violated his human rights. Saying things like he's had no access to outside recreation for 2 years because it's not available to SAM's detainees. And he cannot even see the world outside his cell because the windows are blacked out, and that he has congenital heart issues, and he has not seen a doctor since his trial in February 2020. He has not once seen a dentist while he's been in confinement. And then he says that when he's moved, he has to be shackled head to toe like he's Hannibal Lecter. He's handcuffed, belly chained, foot cuffed, even though he's never been accused of violence or ever committed any disciplinary infractions. His mail is intercepted by the FBI. One thing he's been challenging is how it takes 40 plus days to move some of his mail, which is actually disrupting his ability to submit motions to the court.
That's actually a heartbreaking letter that you sent me. Like the way that he describes his own condition and treatment in there is like it. When you read it, you're like, how is this even possible? We'll get into that later. Yeah. You can continue. I just wanted to point that out because that was a beautifully horrible letter.
Yeah. So he says this mail interception that's going on. What'll happen is he'll file a motion, and then the government's going to reply. That always happens. It's natural that the other opposing party gets to respond to what you're saying. And so then he's supposed to get to reply to the government, but he doesn't know that the government has responded because the FBI is intercepting his mail and delaying it. And then the judge will rule before he even gets to see what the government put forward, and he doesn't get to contest what the government is saying in response to his motions. So it's not fair. He's not actually getting an opportunity to defend himself before this judge. And I'm not talking about anything specific I think that is referred to in there, but I'll just quickly, he's in conditions that amount to solitary confinement. He is, like all prisoners, he's struggling with the fact that there's this administrative remedies process. And this is a big aspect of our mass incarceration system. They tell prisoners that you get to use administrative remedies, and you have to exhaust those before you can file your case in criminal court. And you can't go before a judge until you've exhausted them. But then when the warden doesn't actually respond to your complaints, what do you do? And it makes it difficult for you because you just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And essentially, it's intended to keep prisoners in this kind of limbo to where they really never have standing to bring any complaints before a judge. Not to mention, one thing about all the stuff that I'm talking about, in January 2021, he describes as barbaric torture, as it's termed, and talks about how his cell does not have proper heating and air conditioning. The cell's in 10 South. 10 South is the SAMS unit, which, by the way, we heard testimony about, because that's where Maureen Baird, who was a witness that Assange's team put on the stand, she used to be the warden who oversaw this unit. She's not there anymore. But he says it lacks insulation. He wears he was, at one point in the winter, he was wearing 4 sets of clothing, 5 sets of socks, a sweatshirt and sweatpants, 2 blankets, 3 sets of socks on his hands, and he was still freezing when the temperature in his cell plummeted below freezing, and water literally froze in his cell. So this is what it's like to be under SAMS, just a flavor. I mean, there's much more that could be shared. The other thing I want to make sure I get out here, all of this is really crude, but another thing that happens is prisoners who are under SAMS in 10 South, he claims, are forced to urinate and defecate in plastic bags because during visitations, inmates are moved to a 6-by-6 foot cage. Instead of taking that inmate back to his cage after a visit, as would be logical, the solitary housing unit lieutenants take the visitors back first. And then it could be 5 to 7 hours before the lieutenants return, which means prisoners must go to the bathroom in a plastic bag that they were given. So if he's seeing visitors, it can be quite cruel and unusual what he goes through. I don't know who's visiting him, but if somebody does bother to visit him, this is a thing he has to ask himself. Does he want to go through this and become stranded in a room where he'll be neglected by the lieutenants at this prison?
That's unbelievably cruel. I mean, that seems like it's just so outrageous. It really is kind of incredible that that's possible in the United States. I mean, it's not because I've been doing this for long enough that it's, total. But if I'm just like some person and I heard that's happening in the United States, that's something that you would think of it for like North Korea or maybe Russia or something. Yeah. That's not something you think about happening in the United States. And we should again mention that this is somebody that they have admitted that they don't really know who the Vault 7 whistleblower is. So they're treating this person, not that it's ever okay to treat somebody like that, but this is somebody that, they've already been through a trial. It was a mistrial, and they're continuing to hold them in these conditions for really no reason, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that because of the charges that he faces, not only did the government hit him with Espionage Act offenses and these national security charges, but they attached child porn charges against him. And there's questions about, who had access to the hard drive with those files. There's questions about how it ended up on that drive. I've seen things written about how a number of people, he's claimed that a number of people could put that kind of disgusting material on that hard drive. So without really getting into that, because I don't have any expertise on where those charges come from, I've mostly focused on the National Security and Espionage Act offenses. And the reason I raise it is just adding that makes him exceptionally disgusting to the public. It's harder to if it's hard to advocate and get people to be on the side of somebody who leaks these documents to WikiLeaks, it's even harder to get them to care if they're accused of having a hard drive of child pornography.
100%.
But
they do that intentionally.
But it's important to remind people that we should, again, I'm not encouraging this. I want to be very clear here. I'm not encouraging or saying you should be soft on people who do this. I think it's quite grotesque that somebody would have this material. That being said, it's very important for people to understand that some of the worst assaults on our civil liberties begin with people who are prosecutors or national security leaders basically saying that we need this to catch people who are involved in child pornography or are involved in sexual trafficking, things of that nature. They prey upon the fact that we know that those are heinous acts in order to get us to give up our rights and liberties. And so it's really crucial for us to not let that get in the way of what we say when we advocate for not allowing barbaric torture to go on against Josh Schulte. And again, I would continue to say that one of the reasons why I don't want to engage in character assassination, but one of the reasons why I'm not sure that Josh Schulte is actually the source of Vault 7, and I think we are good to raise doubt here, is because he actually is against Edward Snowden. In fact, during his trial, he had a former CIA colleague named who went under a pseudonym, Jeremy Weber. This person took the stand, and a transcript from this trial basically asked Jeremy, "You don't remember Josh ever discussing leakers with you?" He said, "I do remember talking about leakers." So then he was asked, "What do you recall?" There was discussion around Snowden. Okay, and Schulte felt that Snowden had betrayed his country. So then he was asked, he seems to have strong opinions on everything. You sure he didn't say more? And Jeremy elaborated, he probably would have called him a traitor, said he should be executed for sure. I don't remember specific verbiage, but he did express his typical strong opinions. So, again, I don't know what Josh really believes and doesn't believe. I don't know if he's come around and is now sympathetic to WikiLeaks, but I do think it raises a red flag for me as to whether he's a source if he thinks that Edward Snowden should be executed because he thinks he's a traitor, unless he's trying to put up a front so that people think that he's not, maybe he's trying to create a cover so that people think he fits into the CIA. I don't know, but that to me doesn't seem, whereas a lot of leakers that the cases I've covered, we get their actual viewpoints and they seem to reflect who they are, like Edward Snowden and then Reality Winner, who was supportive of WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden while she was working for a contractor for the NSA. I don't know if I totally believe that someone would fabricate that they think Edward Snowden is a traitor. So that to me has raised questions into my mind as to who he is. Again, they have not been able to prove that he actually did the thing, and it seems like there's actually a person. There's a requirement to go a little bit deeper here, but there's someone who's come up who may have had access to the document, who I recall from the trial transcript wasn't actually disclosed to the defense so that they could, call him into questioning and so that they could ask him whether he had accessed these documents. So there's a lot of questions about what really went down. And when you get right down to it, it just seems to expose that the government has no idea who these people are. And they're working from a place of confirmation bias where they start off with Josh is the source. And then what are all the things we can throw out there that will make it obvious and clear that he has to be the source? So they're forcing everything that they have to point back to Josh, even though they don't have a lot of evidence to prove anything. So, I think it's actually thinner than the case against Jeffrey Sterling, the CIA whistleblower. And in that, they had nothing. They, nothing beyond the fact that he had talked to a reporter who did publish an article about him. But in this, there's nothing. I don't think they can connect Josh to WikiLeaks at all. We don't have anything that we had in the Chelsea Manning case. There's no chat logs with anyone claiming to represent WikiLeaks. There's no, he's got searches on his computer for Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks, but that's news at the time. So
Right.
all of that could be standard. So I think there's a lot of questions as to whether he could be the source. And again, like, I don't want to do character assassination. I don't think he's any less of a person if he's not the source. He definitely doesn't deserve to go through this over the last 2 to 3 years. But I also am not going to jump to call him a whistleblower because I don't really know what he was doing as a CIA engineer. At this point, he looks like a scapegoat.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
That's why we
I agree
say
with that.
the alleged whistleblower, because
Yeah.
it makes it like even more impactful. The fact that they can't prove who it is, but they're just trying to send a message that they want people to know this is what we'll do to you or your friends, even if we can't prove who did it. And that's, like everything in our world today, a straight violation of international law. I believe that's corporal punishment or collective punishment, where you
Do you
single
think
out-
that this is? Do you think that this is an attempt by them, as I think it is with Julian, that they're just trying to drag this out because they're continuing this case when, as we've just said, it's an incredibly flimsy case. So are they just dragging it out because they are trying to send a message? The case against Julian has very much fallen apart as of recently, and they're still continuing to seek this appeal. So it seems like, and as was released in the Stratfor leaks, that they're going to try to drag him from country to country, court to court, keep him in legal stuff for 25 years. It seems like this is kind of their playbook on how to deal with these situations, to drag it out for as long as possible and make these people an example.
So I don't think prosecutors ever want to concede defeat. They really do think that they are indestructible, and and everything that they're doing is basically, that they're following the letter of the law, and like they believe they are enforcers of the law. And when they've convinced themselves that this is the person that they need to nail, I think it's really difficult to get them to look in a different direction. I mean, we've seen high-profile cases where there's prosecutorial misconduct, and all the time, what you see are basically prosecutors that are so convinced that they've got the right person that's where the abuses come from, because they are unwilling to be embarrassed. And they don't want the public to think they got the wrong person, because then that leads us to ask questions about who they are as prosecutors. What are you actually doing? What else are you getting wrong? If you can't find the right person who is the source of these leaks, then what else aren't you able to find? And I think, it's kind of amazing to put this case up against everything we've been told about what happened around the hacking of materials and in the Russia investigation. Because if they don't know who the source is of these Vault 7 materials, then I think it's a little bit easier to argue and convince people that they don't know who the source is of these DNC leak materials or of the Clinton campaign emails. They keep asserting that it has to be a cutout who was working indirectly for Russia. Well, okay, that's your story, but why should we believe you? Like, on what evidence is this what went down? Julian's very consistent. In fact, I actually, I was listening to a clip before we went on air when he, in April of 2017, got to talk to Jeremy Scahill about it and respond to CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who had come out full on attacking WikiLeaks. And he walks through basically his defense of the publication of these materials and how everyone in the media and people in government were getting it wrong, but also they weren't saying certain things. In any case, if they don't know what's going on with the Vault 7 materials, then how is it? And then it's definitely possible that they don't know who the source is of the Podesta emails. And so I think when you put it together like that, that's what's so important for the prosecutors. Like, they have to keep this going because they need to force an end to this trial that makes it look like they actually do know. They need to get
save face. They just need to find a way to save face.
They need to get a jury. They need to get a jury into this courtroom that is less smart than the one before, that deadlocked and didn't convict him on those national security charges. I mean, basically, there were a couple of jurors that refused to go ahead and say he was guilty. And so when that happens, it ends on a mistrial. So they couldn't get a unanimous verdict, and then that throws everything into disarray. He wasn't acquitted. They didn't find him not guilty. They just couldn't get all the jurors to agree. So now they need to find 12 jurors and make sure that, you know, one or two of them aren't going to be independent-minded and are going to basically believe everything they have to say about who Josh is. And if they can get them to, you know, believe that it's possible, then they'll get the guilty verdict they want. And then no longer will it be easy to question them and whether they actually know what happened. But it's clear because of this mistrial that there's a lot that they don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And if you look at John Kiriaku's case, they're not looking for the truth. They're looking to hide what happened. They're looking for basically public relations to happen through the court system and through the detention process, which is why Sam's is so heinously strict as a regimen, because your lawyer can't talk to the press. Your family can't talk to the press, let alone if you're able to talk to a lawyer and the press.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know, the other thing I thought I'd bring in here is just to make sure. So these charges are, you know, they're Espionage Act charges. They're possession. Apparently, one of these counts has actually been dropped by the Justice Department. I need to do some follow up on how that all went down, but for reasons of, I think it might involve double jeopardy or something. But they actually had to withdraw one of the charges. So that's one less count that he's facing. Let me close some of it. So yeah, like another thing I want to remind people here is the reason why there is such this aggression from the Justice Department when it comes to this case. You know, you could watch, I sent you the 2-minute clip, Andrew, of Mike Pompeo. I don't know if we want to refresh people's memory, but, you know, the reason why they're going after Joshua Schulte is because of people like Mike Pompeo who have laid down a marker and called WikiLeaks out as a hostile intelligence service, a non-state hostile intelligence service. And, you know, we need to remember that this fits into a narrative that they want us to believe about WikiLeaks. And so they have to keep it going. They have to keep it up. Essentially, the embarrassment of the CIA is why Josh is in prison. It's why they can't abandon this. I mean, I have this. It's quite something. Back in when they released the Vault 7 materials, this is what WikiLeaks wrote in their press release. The CIA lost control of the majority of its hacking arsenal, including malware, viruses, Trojans, weaponized zero-day exploits, malware, remote control systems, and associated documentation. This extraordinary collection, which amounts to more than several hundred million lines of code, gives its possessor the entire hacking capacity of the CIA. The archive appears to have been circulated among former U.S. government hackers and contractors in an unauthorized manner, one of whom has provided WikiLeaks with portions of the archive. There's nearly 9,000 documents from an isolated high-security network inside the CIA's Center for Cyber Intelligence. So, you know, essentially it was hugely embarrassing to the CIA. What are you doing with your system? How did people get in there and remove all of this material? And that is just supposed to be the most sensitive type of code for how you're conducting cyber warfare operations, both offensive and defensive. And that was something in which you immediately saw Mike Pompeo lash out against WikiLeaks. It's amazing. It turns, everyone,
If you want me to play it.
sure.
Yeah,
go
play
ahead.
it so that everybody can hear it. This is like
we'll just-
one of his first speeches too, when he
It was.
yeah,
It was first as CIA director.
amazing. He dedicated it to WikiLeaks.
Yes.
All right.
These officers, like me, have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution. They've signed secrecy agreements. They quietly go about their work and try not to get too worked up over the headlines, including the fanciful notion that they spy on their fellow citizens via microwave ovens. As a policy, the CIA does not comment on the accuracy of purported intelligence documents posted online. In keeping with that policy, I will not specifically comment on the authenticity or provenance of recent disclosures. But the false narratives that increasingly define our public discourse cannot be ignored. There are fictions out there that demean and distort the work and achievements of the CIA and the intelligence community more broadly. And in the absence of a vocal rebuttal, these voices, once that proclaim treason to be public advocacy, gain a gravity that they do not deserve. And that's one of the reasons we at CIA find the celebration of entities like WikiLeaks to be both perplexing and deeply troubling. Because while we do our best to quietly collect information on those who pose very real threats to our country, individuals such as Julian Assange and Edward Snowden seek to use that information to make a name for themselves. As long as they make a splash, they care nothing about the lives they put at risk or the damage they cause to national security. And it overwhelmingly focuses on the United States while seeking support from anti-democratic countries and organizations. It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is: a non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia. We know this because Assange and his ilk make common cause with dictators today. Yes, they try unsuccessfully to cloak themselves and their actions in the language of liberty and privacy, but in reality, they champion nothing but their own celebrity. Their currency is clickbait, their moral compass non-existent, their mission, personal self-aggrandizement through destruction of Western values.
Hi, we're Lively.
Nice ad. Hi, we're Lively. Okay, the fact that he said that they work with dictators, are you kidding me? The hypocrisy. Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
I don't know if
the United
people
States
know
supports
this.
73% of the world's dictators, and he's got the balls to come in there and say that Julian Assange is in cahoots with dictators. Fuck off, dude. He's such a slime ball. That guy is such a creep. He's gonna run for president too, you guys. It's scary.
Bill
He's
Barr,
scary. He terrifies me.
Mike Pompeo, never mind, I'm wrong. My timeline's wrong, sorry. I was thinking of the wrong person.
Andrew, I love you. Yeah, that guy is such a creep, though. Seriously, that entire speech was garbage. And then, calling him, non-state hostile intelligence, whatever the hell he called him, and Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell both call him a high-tech terrorist and all this stuff. It's very deliberate rhetoric. It's very deliberate propaganda that they've been doing it for over a decade. We're living in the result of all of that. And he's just such a slime ball. That whole speech was gross.
And literally living in it, right? So we're living through an era of cyber attack.
Right.
Like cyber attacks going on all across the country and the world right now. Literally using the tools that Julian released to the public, not literally, but in journalist form, to get them fixed, are now being
And
used
Andrew, just so you know, you were right. You were right.
Yeah.
I found an article. I looked it up earlier because I was curious, because I remember what you said about him going and reaching out to the tech companies to offer his assistance. Right. He absolutely did that. He, in fact, there's an article from Wired from March 9th, 2017 that is titled Silicon Valley, WikiLeaks wants to help you fight the CIA. The big question is if and when Julian Assange follows through on the latest blockbuster promise. So yes, he actively reached out to them and offered to help them safeguard against these, CIA capabilities or whatever. And I don't think I think one, maybe was it, I don't know who it was, but I think only one of the companies that he reached out to even got back to him, which is very telling.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, the only person who's going to call him back is Jack Dorsey at Twitter. But,
I think that was actually who it was.
But
I think
that's just because that guy he doesn't conform to the system quite like Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Even if he's engaged in gross censorship on his platform, he's still he allows himself to explore different ideas. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you wanted to move on and talk about before I have to run off Daniel Hale and some of the other stuff that we had.
Yeah, we can definitely jump into that if you want to.
Can you just give us kind of an update on what's going on in Hale's case?
Yeah, so we've got a hearing on, I believe it's July 27th. That will be the sentencing hearing. So he already pled guilty, and then the judge will bring him before the court. He'll come before the judge, and there will be some back and forth where I think both sides will outline their argument, although it'll mostly be settled at that point, and the judge will issue a sentence. Now, just so you know, what's really crazy about this case is that Daniel has already pled guilty to one charge, but the prosecutors don't think that's enough, and they're refusing to dismiss the 4 other charges that he is faced with. And they're not being straight with the court, and the judge is allowing it, which is not surprising in the Eastern District of Virginia, where there's such deference for people, these prosecutors. But essentially, they're leaving it open. They won't say that they won't go to trial, but they're saying if they're not happy with the sentence that Daniel gets at the end of July, then they might decide to go to trial on these other 4 charges, which Thomas Drake, who's an NSA whistleblower, told me is a manipulation of due process, because they're not really giving you fair warning of what's going to happen in your future. And at the same time, I think if you knew you were going to go to trial after you had pled guilty, I think you would go before the judge and ask him to quash your guilty plea so that it couldn't be used against you during trial. Because right now he's pled guilty to this one charge, hoping that those other 4 charges will be dismissed. And then if he does end up being forced into another trial later on this year in 2022, then they're going to be able to use that guilty plea as, to say to the jury, he admitted to one charge. Obviously, he did these other 4 charges because the other 4 charges contain elements of that first offense. The first offense covers everything that he did, that he's allegedly done. Obviously, we believe that that's to his credit that he did this. And what he did was he ghost wrote a chapter of the assassination complex by Jeremy Scahill. He released these documents. He released all this material on the way the watch listing is done for people and how abusive it is, and the ways in which people, especially Muslim Americans, can get placed on the list with no evidence or not, and they can pull names from like family members' phones and just put you on the list without anything to back up their reasoning. And now, the latest development thing that I'm going to write up here, but I'm kind of waiting for a fuller outline from this organization to be filed with the court. But this organization called CARE, which is the largest Muslim civil rights group in the United States, has asked the court to submit evidence to help him get a reduced sentence by saying the watch listing guidance document that he released helped our clients get off the no-fly list. Like his whistleblowing helped people get themselves off the no-fly list when they were placed there inappropriately. And that was a state secrets case. For some of these people, the government, and this was under Attorney General Eric Holder, they were invoking state secrets privilege so that these people who were basically had their liberty interest in travel violated could not figure out why they were placed on the no-fly list and could not get themselves removed from the no-fly list. And Daniel Hale revealed this information. We talk about him as the drone whistleblower, but he also provided the watch listing guidance document to Jeremy Scahill. And so there was these drone documents. There's things about small warfare operations that were taking place in African countries. There's evidence this British citizen Bilal Burjawi was basically put on a kill list, and after the UK revoked his citizenship, and subsequently he was assassinated and killed. So they basically washed their hands of any responsibility for him in the UK, and then the US was able to assassinate him and target him. So these are important documents that broadened our conversation about the drone program, especially through the Pentagon. He is, though, right now at Alexandria Detention Center. He's in the same facility where Julian Assange would be put if Julian was brought to the United States. And in that facility, just in the last few weeks, there was a suicide. There was a suicide in that facility. There was a man who was accused of significant crimes. I think it included armed robbery. He is a nuclear engineer. I have no idea what led up to whatever he did, but he was viewed as needing psychiatric help immediately and was urged to be transferred to a federal prison hospital and to not be held in the Alexandria Detention Center. And that prison hospital refused to take him, and he ended up committing suicide in Alexandria Detention Center. The exact thing that Baretzer was rightfully concerned could happen to Julian Assange if he's put in the facility in pretrial confinement. So this is not an abstract future that we're talking about. It's not an abstract potential future, because we've actually seen this happen. Not only did we see Chelsea Manning pushed to the brink and attempt suicide when she was resisting the grand jury subpoena, we now have another example of someone actually confined for a few days, only a few days in this facility, and then they succeed in taking their life without being stopped by the Alexandria Detention Center. I simply don't think we can accept the words of this facility that they would stop anything bad from happening to Julian before he got a chance to go to trial. And that's really bleak. It's very dark and grim to talk about Julian in that way. But
Thank you.
we have to talk about it that way because that's what this appeal is going to turn on. That's what this appeal is going to turn on.
And that is such an important point, Kevin. It's such an important point because we were just talking about this, I think last week. We're having this conversation about, these assurances that are being given by the United States about how, oh no, we're going to be super nice. It'll be fine. Like he'll have craft time. It'll be cool. That is worth absolutely nothing. And we shouldn't even be engaging in that conversation because he shouldn't be in jail anyway, period, end of story. They have no case. And so we're kind of being drawn into having this argument about, are the conditions going to be fair? And that shouldn't even be, something that we're engaging in because he shouldn't be in prison. He should not be in prison. And that's what we need to be leading with. And I think that's such an important point that we need to make sure that we're hitting home because, these are the conditions that he will be held in. This is the thing that is threatening him. He will, I know that this sounds, and I'm sorry, trigger warning, all of that stuff, but he will kill himself. There's not a doubt in my mind that if he is brought to the United States, he will find a way to kill himself. He's already been tortured for over a decade. He's been subjected to psychological torture for years and years. And yes, he's a very strong human being and he's been through a lot, but one person can only take so much. And knowing that you're about to be thrown into a hole, essentially in ADX Florence for 175 years, essentially the rest of his life, would you be able to go through that? I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. And so this is what we're up against. And so having these conversations about are the conditions going to be, nice enough. I don't care. He shouldn't be there to begin with.
And even conversations about where he'll serve, right, his sentences.
Yeah, Australia. He can go to Australia.
We had Deepa on last week, and she pointed out that there shouldn't be a sentence to be served. So there shouldn't be any type of talk about that because he has already won his extradition case. And the U.S. has such a narrow margin of appeal, which is why all of these prison conditions are such an important thing to highlight, which is why I'm super, super thankful that you do the work that you do, Kevin, because I don't know if people watch your podcast regularly, but you don't just focus on WikiLeaks whistleblowers. You do a broad spectrum of anybody that's willing to blow the whistle on basically anything. So I really appreciate your work and how important it is.
Yes.
See Steve jumping in here.
Yeah. Poiking in.
And working his camera.
Yeah. There he is.
But you're welcome to stay if you got to bounce. You're welcome to bounce.
Yeah, I know you had to kind of.
Well,
you about an hour.
I do got to bounce. But I'll just give some parting words. Sorry, I'm gonna miss you, Steve. It's good to see you.
I miss you already.
But I don't want to step on. I don't want to step on. I like your background. You've got everything set to boost Commander X's case, so that's great.
I need to get with you about an article. We're holding our first demonstration for him in a week.
Great, yeah. There's just been a whole lot happening in the world of whistleblowers, WikiLeaks, and political prisoners. So, not to mention whatever the fuck we're doing in Haiti. That is just
and Cuba.
We're
taking over the whole goddamn Caribbean.
The World According to U.S. Empire, the Cablegate releases, they have a really long description going back to like colonial times of Haiti's revolutions, and then the Bush era invasions, and then you have to fill it in with like the Clinton weather weapons, and then what's happening now. So it'll be fun, but I'm trying to get all that put together from that book.
Oh, dear.
So I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll plug my newsletter and just say that if anybody wants to stay up to date on the Julian Assange case, which I imagine people do, it's Action for Assange. So if you tune in, I was able to get my hands on the appeal documents and report on them when none of the other media outlets had access to those documents. I was able to know exactly what Stella Morris was talking about when she said it was limited grounds. It's actually a bit of a victory. It's bittersweet because he's still in Belmarsh prison, but it was a small victory. I can tell you that we did not want the U.S. to be able to contest whether he actually is a risk of suicide. And they also wanted to discredit a doctor, and they're not going to be able to do that. They wanted to say that he wasn't credible, Professor Michael Kopelman, because he hid Stella Morris from the court, which is not true. But yeah, so people can go to that newsletter and subscribe. And then you're talking about I do a couple shows. I do the Dissenter Weekly, which is on whistleblowers, and those cases. And then I do a show with Rania Kalik called Unauthorized Disclosure, which is more about empire than whistleblowers. But thank you for having me on to talk about these cases.
Yeah, of course. You're always welcome back to talk about any of these cases. We're trying to branch out and get people involved and educated about some of the other things that are going on. And, not to like blow smoke up your ass, but you really are one of like the premier journalists for the Assange case. You're somebody that's very, to me, and I don't trust a lot of people, I trust your work. And so, you guys really go and support him, whether it's the Dissenter, Unauthorized Disclosure, or Shadowproof. All of those are excellent sources. Support if you can. And you're always welcome back. So thank you so much for coming on and talking about this stuff.
All right. Good luck to y'all. I'll see you.
Thanks. My cats are going crazy.
So, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
How are you doing, my friend? How's everything been going? It's been about, I think, 2 weeks since we had 3 weeks.
Steve's trying to go full time, fam. Help him out.
Steve is full time. So it's now I'm just waiting to see if we get thrown the life preserver or if the boat just goes. But yeah, no, we been doing this about 3 years and have had a incredible amount of support and have been able to somehow like be in the right place at the right time for some very, very valuable friendships to have formed. And also probably John McAfee left keys to his fake death or clues to him faking his death and escaping from the clutches of both the United States empire and tax fraud charges. That may have happened. It may have happened, and so seeing how much trust we've actually built up with the audience, and if we're worth what we're asking, and there you have it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You're worth everything and more, Steve. The work that you've done
Yeah, you guys have been,
independently and with us has just been fucking amazing. And the work you still keep doing, like the organizing for Commander X, while still doing accurate reporting of all of the other crazy shit that happens in the world, is...
In the middle of filming my first documentary and hosting and live streaming the home run events in multiple states and cities.
They tried to use mudslides to get you out of your house. They tried to use forest fires. You were at one point in time reporting
they fuck with
live
your phone,
from,
your flights,
from a actual like refugee camp in California. Like, you have done so much, so you deserve everything that they give you and more.
I interviewed Juan Passarelli. We did
from a
Vigil,
field,
and I was in a freaking field in Garberville, California, with my ex-wife's car running, with an inverter sticking out of the cigarette lighter, with 4 plugs in it. Or I'm sorry, the inverter with like 2 extension cords, which then ran to independently power like one thing, and then also the laptop and the camera and the mic. I had a fucking USB hub on a picnic table.
Some MacGyver shit, dude.
Yo, like,
yeah.
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of acres of California is burning. And then I'm like, oh shit, it's time to go to DC. I mean, it's not a surprise that I'm divorced, but got a lot of really good activism out of it.
And you're still going. Can you talk a little bit about what you have planned for Commander X?
For
where
X.
His trial is at right now?
Do you have an update first of all? Like, is there anything new? I know he's got his court date coming up on the 20th, but
I mean, that's essentially it. So here's the thing. And I don't, a little bit over a month ago, Commander X was forcibly removed from his home in Mexico, where he had protected refugee status. We're not 100% sure of what the argument the U.S. is making. We'll find out a lot more of that next Tuesday. But through extrajudicial means, Commander X was
kidnapped, essentially,
delivered
to
the Santa Rita jail in Alameda County, California, where he sits today. We were successfully able to get him more time out. When he came in, they were like, oh, it's technically not punishment, and it's technically not solitary confinement, because quarantine protocol says you have to be on lockdown for 23 and a half hours a day.
Right.
Which I would say is, forced medical confinement, and also a form of torture. But that's no longer the point. He at least has 3 hours a day out of a cell now. Hopefully will be in general population, where more of that, there's more
interaction with other humans and
movement. Yeah. The ability just to move around and to not be in a fucking 6x9 all day, So Tuesday, July 20th, the hearing itself starts at 9 a.m. There is a live video link for this hearing. And if you cannot, or just aren't into holding a solidarity action for X, here's what I need you to do. I need you to log on to this court call I need as many
Are we
eyes.
allowed to broadcast it?
Don't know.
That's a
I
great
don't
question.
particularly
What
care. If I can
what
get the
I
link, I'll put it up
technically
on
it's a public
A4A.
hearing.
Yeah,
Technically it's a public hearing, but I don't want anything to roll back on X.
right.
So what I'm recommending is individual computers logging onto this, because there will be a view count. The court will be able to tell how many people, watch this thing take place. If we can get hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of eyes on this particular case, sends a huge message
Mm-hmm.
that, yes, as a matter of fact, the world is watching what's happening to Commander X right now. And we are looking at this as a huge red flag that the Biden administration is operating a policy of vengeance-based governance, because it's not just X. And I'll get to that in a moment. But right now, Tuesday, July 20th at noon, 280 South 1st Street in San Jose, California, the Robert Peckham Federal Building, is where we're going to gather. Myself, Keith McHenry, the founder of Food Not Bombs, a couple other people that aren't confirmed yet but are likely, will be speaking. This is a rally to free Commander X, but also to call attention to the Biden administration's continued war on digital activists, cyber activists, on whistleblowers, on leakers, and on the free press, because X is all of those things, as well as a lifelong human rights and homeless advocate. The charge, or the new charges that have entered into this, involve a 2012 DDoS attack in Orlando, Florida, which is going to be impossible to prove. Like, even if X talks about it in a book, what the fuck does that mean or prove?
Right.
So they're coming out with, they're still coming after Food Not Bombs through this. Food Not Bombs was declared a terrorist organization in 1989
Yeah.
because they feed the homeless.
That's crazy. That we live in a country where if you feed homeless people, you're labeled a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's so fucked up. It's
In
so
fact,
ridiculous.
There's I believe she's Italian documentary filmmaker that has like 400 hours of Food Not Bombs and Keith McHenry footage. They like traveled the world together, got kidnapped in Nigeria together, like all kinds of just crazy stuff. But she, the working title for the documentary was food terrorism. And so Keith's working title for his book is The Food Terrorist Diaries. But just the idea that providing vegan meals to the homeless makes you a terrorist should make everyone an activist. It should. And we've gotten a handful of people that have offered to hold solidarity actions for X, and I know there's going to be a few in Mexico, Amsterdam, UK. There's a couple in Spain. I think that as more people become aware of what's happening with X and put it together in larger context with, it's not just X. Barrett Brown now has new charges. DDoS Secrets, Emmy Best's website, who's never been a big friend to Julian Assange or WikiLeaks, but has been a big proponent of cyber activism, and especially of putting the police on blast. Their servers got raided again. Their social media got taken down. There's talk of sealed indictments for Emmy and the DDoS Secrets people. Another unmasked anon, Marty G. His defense fund was taken down. He's had some of his social media accounts targeted. there are people that have been, like, the targeting of them has increased significantly. I don't want to put their names out right now, but the targeting that they've been experiencing and the harassment that they've been experiencing and like gang stalking and shit online, that's all ratcheted up. You could really look at what's being done to the March for Medicare for All and the people who are responsible for trying to destabilize that as a at least Democratic Party generated operation. And I mean, it is just absolutely ridiculous. I put a tweet out today because I had heard that Steve Cox got his spot back.
Yes.
Right? Like
that was a whole thing, man.
No, I mean, I was in LA at Pasta and Fee's house when it happened. It was the Pasta lost it, dude.
I was in DMs with him. He was not happy. I was not happy. That was fucked up. There was no reason for him to ever have been taken off. I mean, I don't want to get too far into it, but I mean, all of this stems from people attacking the march and then them being chicken shit. And we can't have Steve Cox. He has a controversial Twitter page. I'm MC of the Columbus event, y'all. Have you seen my Twitter feed? Steve Cox is nothing. Like, and that, but it was just very apparent. You know what I'm saying? It was very apparent what was happening and that they were starting to get scared, which I get. Listen, I get it. When you got like 1 million people coming at you, it sucks. I get that. But you can't back down to these people. You cannot. You can't give an inch.
And that's when the organizers need to be like, yo, we asked who we asked. And
if you think you can do it better, then do it fucking better. Put up or shut up. Geoff said he was going to do his own rally. Put up or shut up. Do it. Organize it with all your professionals, homie. Let's see it.
Yeah, but that guy's not going to because he doesn't want the thing. And to be perfect, like, that's not my fight. It's not. State-run healthcare frightens the crap out of me. You know, private for-profit symptom treating, that's not working either.
No, and I agree with you.
I think if you successfully have a march, if you get people talking about it, then you can at least start a conversation on how to do it better and do it different without going, okay, well,
let's hand all the power over.
$14,000 for 1 liquid ounce of whatever will stop my asthma. You know, obviously not tenable, but having Nancy Pelosi or AOC or Mitch McConnell making decisions about, you know, individuals' healthcare, equally frightening.
Maybe worse.
You know, and if you can find a way to have a citizen pool for healthcare that should, you know, fairly equitably ease the individual cost for a person, fantastic. But like, to get to there from here, that's going to be a very, very, very long walk, and it's going to be a really hard sell, even though it shouldn't be. You know, so for them to put up what they've had to put up with what they've had to put up with, and the unnecessary shit that's been hurled upon them just because of the cause that they're advocating for, is something that I can, you know, empathize with quite a bit.
Yes, 100%. And then, I mean, they even have people like Ryan Grimm coming after them. And, you know, the thing that bothers me most about what Ryan Grimm is doing is that he's covering this, you know, elevating the trolls, and hasn't mentioned a whisper of the attacks that the organizers have been under, or the speakers have been under. Like, he was tweeting about how the organizers from the march were so mean to Booker. And that's not the case at all. In fact, people were like, the G-Hive trolls were going after Booker and saying, how dare you speak at this rally, that it's a bunch of Nazis or whatever, just complete fabrications. But it couldn't be more apparent. These are the same people that tried to sabotage, or that did effectively sabotage Force the Vote. You know, if you are constantly working to sabotage actual efforts to get healthcare for people, you may not actually want healthcare. And I don't know if it could be more obvious that this is a deliberate op. I mean, they're not very covert about it.
Yeah.
It's really kind of ridiculous.
Like, I personally think there should be a national infrastructure controlled, like, by the National Nurses Union for administration, and then cities figure out how to pay for it themselves collectively. But either
Yeah.
way,
We need the conversation. Steve's right.
It reveals to a portion of the organizing population what the intelligence communities will do. And it's, I feel like, our responsibility to educate them about things like J-Trig and all of the other different techniques that intelligence communities use to interrupt these organizing methods. So I think it's at least a great way to spotlight all of this while fighting for healthcare.
Yes, and like Steve said, having these marches, because I don't agree with like state. That scares me too. I don't want the state having that much control. I'm kind of an anarchist, but I think that we need to have this conversation, and I think that this organizing effort is a worthwhile venture. And so, while I may not agree with like the end game that some of these organizers may have, I'm willing to work alongside them because we share a common goal. We want everybody to be able to see a doctor when they're sick. And so while we may disagree on, what our end game is going, like our hope would be, I have no problem, helping out or, volunteering my time or whatever it is that to help move that conversation forward, because we're not ever going to get to that place until we have enough people talking about, the issue of healthcare and why in, the United States of America in the year 2021, people can't go to a doctor. That's crazy. That makes no sense whatsoever. So
Steve, we had a question in chat asking where people can find a link to tune into Commander X's trial.
Yeah, I'll pull that up right now.
yeah. And like, seriously, if you have multiple devices, pull it up on multiple devices. Because like Steve said, really the numbers is what is going to make the statement. So if we can get, hundreds or thousands of people watching it, I'm going to try to do an event. It's probably just going to be me standing on a sidewalk, but if that's what you can manage, do that. Or I thought about too, I'm decorating my Jeep with like Free Commander X signs and whatever, and just driving around, like with balloons or something, like to get people's attention. Whatever you can do, get creative. It doesn't have to be like a huge 50-person rally or a huge, 100-person rally. It can be you on a sidewalk with a poster board, and that's good enough. Like, people will try to shit on your attempts at organizing. Fuck them. That's good enough. Just whatever you can do.
Andrew, I'm putting links in the element because there's a webinar ID and password that's got to accompany the link.
I'll tweet it out too, multiple times before Tuesday. So hopefully that'll help if you guys just want to follow my Twitter, and maybe I can get it out there. And Twitter will probably shadow ban it, but I'll try.
I'm real quick. I'm in the chat. I'll drop a link to the article that everybody can pull it up from too. So if you just pull up the article and bookmark it,
You'll have it.
You will also have it.
Yeah. Have you talked to his lawyer or anything? Like, is he doing okay? I don't know if everybody knows. X had some health issues before. He was doing much better before he was kidnapped. He had started a show. I was on his show. It was great. He was, he was feeling better. So how is he okay?
The last time I talked to Jay, he said that X appeared, generally healthy, generally with energy, and generally full of piss and vinegar.
As X would be.
Yeah. So
that's good to hear. Yeah.
I
worry about it every day.
Yeah. When you see a couple of the the video clips that have come out, like clean shaven X is interesting.
Yeah. That is a little weird.
Do you know if he did that voluntarily?
Huh?
Do you know
did
if
he shave voluntarily
or no?
You don't know.
I don't think anybody held him down and shaved him. I mean, he still got his hair. So,
yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
The first clip that he had sent to his sister killed me. I mean, he broke down, and you could tell that he was struggling, and that, it breaks my heart. And so I'm glad to hear that he sounds okay and seems to be, in the best spirits under the conditions that he's in. I guess that is possible.
Yeah, so. He's so if you can. And I should have all this. So freecommanderx.org is the website that we've got up and going for this right now. There are a couple of different things that you can do. If you go to, you actually have to go to the Santa Rita Jail's website itself to sign up to put money on X's books. You have to be in the US to do that. And there has to be like a bank account that it goes back to. So if you're uncomfortable doing any of that, I understand. There is an additional fundraiser going for care feeding hospital or vet bills if they come up for the dogs. That's over on fundraiser. I will pull that up and drop that link. Why is that not hyperlinked? Lubers, you're fired.
I don't think you can fire Lubers. I think he's unfireable.
He'll just come back.
Yeah, he will. I don't think he's going anywhere. But yeah, if you guys can drop money on his books, that would be excellent. Because I mean, being in jail sucks, and not being able to, buy things for yourself sucks even worse. So, do we have any idea? Like, is this first court date? I'm assuming this is just like a preliminary, like bullshit, introducing the case to the courts, blah, 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 yada, yada, right? Is that all that we're doing on the 20th? Do we have any idea like what kind of time frame we're looking at as to when we could potentially get him out? Or
no, this is this is an arraignment. It's let me see what the exact legal ease is for it.
Yeah, I'm not good at all this stuff, so that's why I'm asking, because I don't know how any of this shit works. I should, but I don't. I know more. I think I know more about the British court system at this point than I do about the United States. Yeah, it is a little fucked up. Yeah, but this is all
3 years.
It has. Yeah, definitely. I'm exhausted. We were talking about this earlier. I'm fucking exhausted. It's like getting constantly beat down, like we talked about with Kevin too. Having to find a way to laugh and like make light of some of this stuff, because otherwise you'd lose your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
So yeah, this will just be like general arraignment, reading of charges. He's charged in 2 cases. 2011 case with intrusion into a protected computer and denial of service attack in Santa Cruz. And then this new Orlando charge, which is basically the same thing that he's getting charged with in Santa Cruz. So on opposite parts of the country, for disrupting a website. In the case of Santa Cruz, it was on a Saturday when nobody buildings and offices were not open, and no one was there. With the thing in Orlando, the city of Orlando had gone after Food Not Bombs and had locked up Keith. And so I think it was like the Board of Tourism or something where the DDoS protest on that website was. And the city of Orlando claimed that it had cost them tourism dollars because the website had been taken down. And so Keith McHenry was interviewed about it. Like, hey, what do you think about Anonymous disrupting, taking down, I don't even know exactly what the websites were. And Keith was like, well, do phones still work? Yeah, the phone still works? Okay. Was anybody hurt?
Right?
No. Okay. Did the homeless people still get to eat? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What's the problem? You know,
I feel
and
like that
that
should
was
be called the Commander X defense. Like, I
Yeah.
don't see what
Right.
the problem is.
But
here.
what that's what troubles me the most about what they're doing to X is I mean, he's been in Mexico for what, like 4 years or something? And
since 2018. Yeah.
yeah, and now all of a sudden they're coming to get him. That's fucked up. He's not doing anything. He's not hurting anybody. You know, he's been trying to deal with his health issues and just love on his dogs. That's all he wants to do.
Yeah, he said as far as activism goes, he was done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't going to be doing it. He would advocate for the release of Julian Assange, for charges to be dropped on all political prisoners. You know, he'd advocate for getting homeless people out of their situation and housed, advocate for, you know, the removal of draconian laws against homeless people. But that's not, you know,
Right.
like we got the Freedom Camp in Santa Cruz, their 4G router, mobile router. Like, X didn't. It was his idea. We made it happen. You know, and I don't know, man. It really does. It looks like the Biden administration is taking a vengeance-based approach and going and settling old scores
Mm-hmm.
from the, you know, the heyday of Anonymous and WikiLeaks. And
Well,
everybody,
the other thing is it's a straight violation of political asylum. So
Huh?
it throws out every
A violation
aspect
of his
what we
political
know
asylum.
about international law.
Yeah.
well, and I mean, Julian Assange was the precedent for that too, when his Ecuadorian citizenship was removed without due process, and he was
Yes.
trafficked out of the embassy. That set an international standard when there wasn't international outcry over it, when people
Yes.
didn't demand that the US be accountable and the
That the UK
Ecuadorian
be
government be
accountable.
accountable
Yeah.
for, you know, conspiring to remove a man's citizenship illegally, zero due process. Like, when that didn't happen, the US went, bet you we can do it again.
Yeah.
And here we are. And it's with a, you know, this time it's with a cyber activist instead of a journalist and publisher. But what next time? And the fact that it started with a journalist and publisher should have had people going crazy. And then now we've got Freedom of the Press Foundation board members
Yes.
going absolutely bugfuck nuts, trying, even though the statement was, oh no, I totally support his release. Then, motherfucker, why are you trying to
Then shut
go
the
out of
fuck
your
up
way to make sure
lie.
that political punishment is exacted?
Yeah.
Because you claim to have intimate knowledge from the 20 total hours of your life you have spent with Julian Assange. 20 hours.
And
you're gonna
Juan
say
Passarelli
in
even
a
said,
moment about a political conversation about the hypothetical results of an election,
mm-hmm.
you're going to use that to be like, okay, yeah, no, fuck it. Let's just go ahead and destroy free press.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
And just making shit up like that, just like making
Yeah.
these assertions and acting like it's just fact. And Juan Passarelli brought up a good point. He's not mentioned in the UC Global case. And when's the last time he was at the embassy? The last time I can find evidence of him being there is 2014. We didn't even know Trump was going to run, but suddenly he knows from intimate knowledge that Julian Assange wanted to help Donald Trump get elected. I mean, fuck off. What he's doing is disgusting. It's inexcusable.
And even even if that's the case, your action now, your position now is because I believe this thing about Julian, I am 100% going to side with Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo and fucking John Bolton and Mitch McConnell and Hillary Clinton
and Joe Biden.
All of this, and Joe Biden. I'm going to side with all of these people because I believe this one thing to be true. I believe he favored Donald Trump in the election, so I'm going to side with Donald Trump. I'm going to side with Bill Barr. And now I'm going to side with Merrick Garland.
Yes. And his
Because
assertion
my
doesn't even make
feces
sense.
got hurt.
Yeah, but those assertions don't even make sense. Donald Trump's the one that had him arrested, y'all. And Donald Trump offered him a pardon if he would give up his source, and he said, "Fuck you." Like, that's not the actions and behavior of a man who was trying to get Donald Trump elected in the first place.
So I actually don't believe that Donald Trump offered him a pardon.
I think it was probably like a I don't think Trump offered it to him. I think somebody else offered it.
I believe that Dana
Increased his
Rohrabacher
position
was
in the
trying
world.
to get back into the DC
Yes.
bubble and try to get back into relevancy, because at that
But the point is, Assange
already
turned it down flat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's verifiable.
Yes.
And it's also verifiable that Kim.com was going, "You're a dumbass for that.
Yeah.
You should totally tell them who the source was." And so here's my conspiracy theory about that, is that more than just Seth Rich was involved. There were more moving parts than Seth Rich or Aaron Rich or Michael Ratner, for that matter. Michael Ratner's deceased, kind of questionably, when you remember the CIA has a heart attack gun. But there are still living people who were involved and who have intimate knowledge of how the DNC leaks got to the embassy. So Julian Assange is never going to talk about that.
No.
Because even if one or two of the people involved are no longer living, you're still giving up your sources. You're still, potentially putting people who aren't dead at risk. And that is not how WikiLeaks operates.
No.
Like, I find myself reminding people now, because they've forgotten. Chelsea Manning got caught because she confessed to Adrian Lamo what she did, and he immediately ran to the FBI.
Yes.
Julian Assange had nothing to do with that. Julian Assange to this day still refers to her as an alleged leaker.
And the court, there's never actually been proven that the communications happened between, I think the name was Nathaniel Frank and Chelsea Manning.
Yeah.
Was the conversation. And it was never proven in Chelsea's case, and it was presented as fact and actually dismissed in Julian's case that was him, and that was a conversation that had happened with her, because they were never able to get her to confess to anything because she's a badass.
Yes.
Well, and there's no way to prove that Nathaniel Frank and Julian Assange were the same person. And we know at the time that there were people that had infiltrated WikiLeaks and were pretending to be Julian Assange.
Yes.
Like, the idea that this prosecution, the witnesses involved, and the testimony that they've given stem from a conversation between Sabu and Siggy, where Siggy is pretending to be Julian Assange. "Dear Anonymous, I would like for you to hack high-profile targets and then release the information to WikiLeaks." And Sabu pretending not to be a Fed. "Oh, sure, WikiLeaks, we at
We'll get right on that.
Anonymous would love to engage in illegal activity on your behalf. It just so happens I found some zero-day exploits. And I'm going to pass them along to people who actually aren't affiliated with Anonymous. So this is LulzSec. It's flying its own flag. But we're going to say it was anonymous. And I'm going to give these FBI-provided zero-day exploits to someone who I'm entrapped into doing work for me.
You see that
And
in the way
we'll
that
say that Anonymous hacked, HB Gary and Stratfor and Sony on behalf of WikiLeaks.
Yeah, you see the way that Siggy, we read through the couple parts where it mentions him in the trial, where Teenager was literally going around behind the scenes saying that he is a general for WikiLeaks and they're the greatest hacker organization ever, and that he's building.
And this dude isn't
army.
even a hacker. He had to ask the FBI how to download a video from his phone. I can do that, and I'm fucking dumb when it comes to technology. Like, ask Sleepy Josh. I am dumb as shit. Yeah, this guy, I mean, and he calls himself a hacker. Like, all of this stuff is just complete garbage. And that's why the fact that they're continuing this case, we just talked to Kevin Gasztola about the way that they're doing that to Joshua Schulte, and the way that they're going to continue, they're going to continue to go after the prosecution despite the mistrial. I mean, this is the same thing that they're doing to Julian Assange. They have nothing. They have no case. The whatever little tiny bit of manufactured case that they had has completely imploded. And they're still continuing to do this, and it's fucking nuts.
Can we? It's crazy. Joshua Schulte's or however you pronounce it, his letter, because there's a letter from mid-May that I think is really important to go through because it outlines the conditions he's in. Do you want to stick around and do this with us, Steve?
Oh sure.
Heck yeah.
I think, yeah.
Oh sure.
Oh sure. Let me. So let me make sure it looks okay on the screen for everybody. Attached, so this is Joshua Schulte to the judge in his case. This is a handwritten letter. It came from court to, it was sent from Schulte to the actual judge. So attached is an exhibit of a copy of an envelope from a letter mailed to me by my attorneys. The postmark date is 3/25/21. I did not receive this letter until 5/5/21, as indicated by both the unit manager, Reed's signature, and my own. The letter was opened as general correspondence and the attorney-client privilege information reviewed and mailed to the FBI. Judge Crotty, the MCC has done this for the past 3 years. This is an egregious assault on the Sixth Amendment. Not only the opening and reading of attorney-client privilege material, but the consistent 42-day delay. I have letters dating back to 2018 with a 42-plus day delay in receipt and the illegal copying and opening of the attorney-client privileged mail. I outlined this.
Incredulous.
I couldn't read that word. Thank you. Incredulous.
I have terrible handwriting, so.
In my own motion for modification of conditions of confinement on January 15th, 2021. You denied that motion, but I filed a motion for reconsideration, as I did not have a chance to file a reply brief, mainly due to the 42-day delay it took before I received the government's response. My motion for reconsideration is still outstanding. In addition to the illegal opening and delay of my legal mail, I also ask for relief from torture, including the ban of all books and the institution's library, the ban of looking outside, the ban of outside recreation, the ban of arbitrary commission items such as Cheerios, sleep deprivation through constant cage lighting, toilets that do not flush, no heating or air conditioning, filth, among countless others. The conditions of confinement are only applied to SAM's inmates, and the conditions violate both the Fifth and Eighth Amendments because the conditions are arbitrary with no legitimate penological interest and impose cruel and unusual punishment. I detailed in my motion for reconsideration that a motion for modification of the conditions of confinement is properly filed in the civil case and gave substantial case law from the Second Circuit that proved my argument. I asked this court for a ruling on the motion because otherwise it is essentially pocket vetoed with no way for me to appeal, and the MCC will continue to delay my legal mail for 40 plus days and give it to the FBI, as well as torture me in unconstitutional conditions of confinement. I also remind the court that my motion for the mirror image, well, I'll pause it here because this is where it gets into something that we had discussed with Kevin. But
all of that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
It's gross. He is. I mean, he can't even look outside, y'all. I mean, I know we just talked about this with Kevin, and I know that he detailed it very well, but this is hell on earth. Special administrative measures is hell on earth. And this is what is facing Julian Assange. This is 100%. No matter what the U.S. assurances are, that ain't worth dick. This is what he will be facing. Exactly. Probably worse. I don't know how it could get much worse, but they'll figure out some ways to make it worse, I'm sure.
And the one line here that's truly disturbing is where Schultz says that this is only under special administrative measures that things like this happen. And since this letter was written, there has been people in jail without trial under these exact same conditions from the January 6th protests that happened all across the country, not just in DC. So that's the one point that I disagree with, is it's no longer only people under special administrative measures. There's pretrial detainees coast to coast that are held like this now.
100%. This is a symptom of our greater mass incarceration system. I mean, this is what we do. We throw people in boxes and forget about them, essentially.
When I fell off of the roof and just shattered my leg and all that shit, when I got the external cast, the one with the rods that come out of your legs and then connect with the bar, it's called a fixator. Neat. When I got that removed and then got put in like a cast, when I came out of that, they made this like hard plastic mold for just my calf and the bottom of my foot. And it had one little piece of metal and then some like Velcro that, attached and got it around. I was arrested in Indiana on a 14-year-old failure to appear, just like Commander X. On a case that I didn't even freaking remember, but when I went to jail, they put me in solitary because they told me that the brace could be used as a weapon. And I'm like, but it's how I walk. Like, I would literally have to sit down and be stationary in order to swing it at somebody if I wanted to use it as a weapon. So they put me in solitary for 2 weeks. And then, kind of dawned on some bright spark, this guy could probably sue you for this. So instead, they took my brace and gave me metal crutches. Because the small-ish piece of plastic could be used as a weapon, but the long metal bar that I was walking around with.
And they gave you two or just one crutch?
They gave me two.
So you could like lean on one and beat the shit out of somebody with the other one.
Yeah.
Very smart. This is very smart indeed.
Yeah. But I mean, just for that, just for having the brace, I think it was like a total of 15 days that I had to be in solitary. And it, well, I mean, like I was, in the fucking, like basically their psych ward where they had people locked down on suicide watch and shit like that. And I was there because in the late 90s, my house got raided. And when they couldn't find what they were looking for, they charged me because my name was on the lease with everything, including an unopened bottle of tequila. And I was charged with minor possession of alcohol for this because I was 19 at the time, for an unopened bottle in my house that belonged to a 27-year-old that was living there. And that was what the warrant was over, was that a bottle of tequila.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
But that's how they come for all of. I mean, this, the fact that they are able to continue to do this shit over and over and over again, out in the open, to some of the most high profile. I mean, Julian Assange is like one of the most high profile cases. I guess not high profile. One of the most impactful cases, maybe, because nobody talks about it. So I don't know if it's really high profile, but it should be. It fucking should be. It's not, but it should be. Although we finally did get an article in Jacobin. Way to go, guys. You did it.
Yeah, I saw that by
You
Elizabeth
did it,
Moss tweeted
fams.
that.
Way to go. It's sad that I have to cheer for that, but
Well,
here we are.
I'm glad that there are people talking about it. I am. But because I'm an activist, I want more.
Yes.
And part of that more is if you're going to talk about it and you have any sort of platform, have on the people that have been organizing for it.
Yes.
Talk to those people. Talk to the people that run Assange defense, at least if you're too good to talk to dirty street activists.
Right.
You know, like,
Daryl?
Well, we had Russell Brand as a recent convert. Like, he's the most.
Yeah,
the
I
most
emailed him and he put out a
high-profile
video.
person. He put out
Yeah.
like an 18. He's done a better job covering this case than Kyle fucking Kalinske, and you
Yeah.
can tell that man does DMT on a regular basis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he
and,
also
you know,
doesn't do interviews, which is unfortunate.
Well,
Yeah, it
I
is
tried,
unfortunate.
so I still have an open line of communication there, at least. So I've like said thank you to them for that video. I said, if you ever want to have one of us on, if you ever want to come on, that's an open opportunity. So maybe one day, because he
Maybe
did
one
have Glenn
day.
Greenwald on recently, because most of the things he does is interview pieces.
Yeah. And I would like to say a shout out to Randy Credico too, who just did, he just interviewed me along with Emmy and Alex. He wanted to get like some international female Assange supporters and talk to us about activism and stuff like that. And he's going to continue to do those kind of highlight pieces on Assange supporters, which is fantastic. And we need more of that. Steve's right. And I'm not saying that because I think that like I should be on everybody's show or whatever. I don't care if it's me. I don't give a shit. Talk to Steve, talk to Glory, talk to Emmy, talk to Alex, there's plenty of people around the country who have been in this game for a long time who often get overlooked and the efforts get overlooked. And now it's like it's starting to become cool to talk about it. And so now everybody wants to talk about it, but they're not talking about the people who have been fighting for years, you know?
Well, and that's not even necessarily that, like, yes, I feel like, you know, you guys should get credit for the work that you've done. We all should, but that's not the point. The point is, if you're not bringing on organizers and activists, and you're not highlighting the events that are going on, then your audiences are totally in the dark on how they can get involved and how they can help. So if you've got a massive platform like Russell Brand, and you do 18 incredible minutes on, you know, everything that the audience would need to know, you know, or at least the intro to that, and you don't follow it up with, and here's how you can get involved.
Yeah.
You missed a massive opportunity, and you've done your audience a massive disservice.
Yes, because we need more people in the streets. We need more people. I mean, somebody got into a fight with Paula the other day about making phone calls. Fuck off. Phone calls are such an easy thing to do. Almost everybody can do it. It's a tool in the toolbox. There's no excuse to not be doing it. And take your negativity on that shit elsewhere. I don't want to hear it. We have to use everything at our disposal. We have to, whatever we can do to make
Just wait till we
noise.
start like cold calling for jury nullification education throughout the Eastern District of Virginia. Like that'll be a fun period of time.
But yeah, I mean, I get really tired of people trying to naysay or discourage. Anybody who's trying to discourage you from activism is suspect. You should immediately turn around and walk away from that person because they don't have your best interests at heart at all. These are things that you should absolutely be fighting for, whether it's Julian Assange or the healthcare thing. Again, Steve and I don't necessarily agree with the end game that, you know, maybe these organizers are looking for, but we do agree that everybody should be able to go see a doctor. And so, you know, despite disagreements, we're able to work together because we have a common goal. And so these are things you should be fighting for without question. Anybody trying to sabotage or dissuade you or discourage you is not your friend. That's just, we need people in the streets, especially for Julian Assange. Jesus fucking Christ. It's like pulling teeth to get anybody to talk about it. There's this huge bombshell where the key witness in the case comes out and admits that he lied and made up everything. And it turns out that he's this, FBI, guy who was offered immunity, and he's a, convicted child molester and a, diagnosed sociopath. And he actually embezzled over $50,000 from WikiLeaks. And he's this huge liar. And this is the person that they have, and nobody's talking about that. It's like pulling teeth to get anybody to talk about it. We have had a couple. John and Gabriel Shipton went on Mehdi Hassan, and he wanted to talk about 2016.
Yep.
Dude tried to talk about 2016 for the entire segment. If it had been for Gabriel bringing up the fact that Siggy lied, they never would have discussed it. And that's what we're up against. It not only is there a massive blackout, but when we do manage to like poke through and get, a segment on MSNBC, like John and Gabriel were able to do, they want to talk about all the wrong things. And so I tweeted this out the other day. We just need you, like everybody, to help us get this in front of people's eyes. However you can, sharing it across multiple platforms, talking to your friends and family and your neighbors, and you're the guy that does your hair. I do that all the time. Hi, Ethan. I love you. All of that stuff. Today I talked to him about Klaus Schwab. Fucking blew his brain. Yeah. He's gonna need some therapy, I think. But yeah, like that's what we need.
You should invite him onto an episode of Bitch one day, Misty.
I should. I really love him.
Hilarious.
He's really nice, though. I think he's too nice for Bitch, honestly.
So tomorrow you can call your hairdresser and tell him tomorrow on Slow News Day we're doing like
I told him about your show and Whitney.
Intro to the Internet of Things.
Cool. I didn't know that, so I didn't tell him that. But I did tell him about your show, and I told him that he needs to be following Whitney Webb and all of her work.
We're gonna like take a lot of time, not a lot of time, but we're gonna take some time to like really sort of do a thorough cursory examination of what the IoT is, because then you can start to understand like how that plays into the fourth industrial revolution, what that really means, and why the complete commodification of nature is bad, and why you maybe shouldn't just hang on to every word Naomi Klein says about it because she's being paid to usher it in.
Yeah. Yes. We need more skepticism for sure. I think Nico put out a tweet earlier, and then you maybe retweeted it, like just talking about there's no consistency. There's no consistency. It's like with this thing with Cuba. It's like if it's your team and it suits your agenda, then it's fine. And if it's not, then you have a fit about it. And some consistency would be nice. It's really not that difficult. I don't know. It's really,
it's really like somebody asked me how you know that you can trust a group or something like that, and I'm like, well, their principles don't change.
Yeah,
the morality might get a little flexible, but the principles are consistent, and the criticisms are consistent. And I think I even included a little bit of this in the tweet just because it's relevant. But like the analysis, it isn't dependent on a prevailing popular opinion, and it's way easier than people make it. Yeah. But culturally, where we are in terms of how we view media and what we do with media, it's almost all entertainment. Like almost all of it is just, if you're not cheapening it somehow, it's not worth watching. And that's why like 95% of YouTube is react channels, even when they're trying to pass themselves off as something else. It's just someone on camera reacting to what the mainstream media said and then saying whether or not they agree with it.
My favorite thing is like people on camera reacting to themselves on camera. Those are
that sounds like some Black Mirror kind of shit.
Let's watch a clip of me from last week.
That sounds like torture. I hate watching myself. Like I hate it. It's not good. So I would rather die.
I can now that we have an Instagram for Slow News Day and we're putting out like under a minute clips, I can take that because it's usually just a joke and then the guest making a point.
Right.
And I'm okay with
through the last 3 paragraphs of the article.
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can we do that? Do you want to read? Do you want me to read?
I can read. I
can't,
guess.
So I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. So I also remind the court that my motion for the mirror images of the CIA's. Okay. What? ESXI?
It's ESXI and
Okay.
FS01
Okay. No,
servers.
yeah, I got
They're
it
the
now.
servers where the information was held, supposedly.
I got it now. My brain just saw that and was like, that's not a word.
Yeah.
Is still outstanding from July 28th, 2020, nearly a year now. The government claimed at trial that I used my CIA workstation to access the ESXi server to steal data from the whatever server. These 3 servers are the digital crime scene and were given to the government's expert, who stated that it very much informed his expert testimony while simultaneously denying it to the defense's expert. The due process clause of the Fifth Amendment clearly requires the government to provide the same forensic images to the defense as it did its own expert. Otherwise, I will not have a fair trial or an ability to rebut the government's evidence at trial. If the court does not rule on this motion soon, the defense will not be prepared for trial by October. Scroll, Andrew, scroll. Considering the utilical nature of both these outstanding motions, the motion for reconsideration of the motion for modification of conditions of confinement and the motion for the same mirror images the government provided to its own expert, I respectfully request the court to issue rulings on these motions consistent with the Second Circuit case law. If the court does not rule on these critical motions soon, I will have no choice but to file a petition for writ of mandamus, I don't know how to say that, with the Second Circuit in order to issue rulings forthwith. Finally, I note for the court that my motion to suppress evidence seized from the MCC is also outstanding. The government chose not to file a response, so this motion is also pending a ruling. However, it does not reach the same critical threshold as the above 2 motions requiring a prompt ruling. Respectfully submitted, Joshua Schulte. Yeah, so that's his handwritten letter from 5/5/2021.
And this is the postmark of 3/25 and then the receive mark of 5/5/21.
I mean, can you imagine trying to participate in your own defense and it's taking over 40 days to get any of your legal documentation so that you can file motions and appeals and all of that stuff? It's ridiculous. Nobody can be expected to operate under those conditions. Julian Assange is facing very much similar conditions. He's unable to meet with his lawyers. They take his legal documents away from him. He was given a laptop with the keys glued down. I mean, these are all just ridiculous, petty punishments, and it's really just meant as another form of torture, essentially, because you are now left feeling helpless and hopeless because you can't even aid yourself in your own defense. And it's stupid. And I can't believe it's allowed. Again, I know we said this with Kevin, but in the United States of America, this is just how it's accepted. And the fact that special administrative measures is a thing that we allow to happen in this country is absurd to me.
And the home of the
oh, such a hot mess of a shithole country.
Tuesday, July 20th, San Jose, California, at noon, 280 South 1st Street, Robert Peckham Federal Building. If you're anywhere near the bay, we got people coming in from Vegas for this thing. We got people coming up from Southern California for this thing. So if you're anywhere near the Bay Area, you got no excuse.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrangle John Fitch to come down. Who does Mixed Martial Mindset with Jason Burmis on Mondays, former UFC champion John Fitch, who's from like a half an hour south of me and like graduated the same year that I graduated and shit too. Like I probably at some point should have known him. A little weird, but and Keith McHenry. Keith McHenry is a fantastic speaker.
And a bona fide badass.
He's not allowed to get a job in the United States. That's how dangerous he is he is
Unemployable by federal decree.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a terrorist, y'all.
Capitalism,
Eats people.
right? Because that's what that is, right? That's how that works. That's capitalism.
Yeah. That's capitalism. I don't know what that is. That's some authoritarian nonsense is what that is. You know what I'm saying?
That is what we are fighting against.
A dude who feeds homeless people is unemployable. I mean,
disallowed from employment, period. Period. Are you going to show up on payrolls or on somebody's payroll report? Did you have to give up your social security number to get this job? Like everyone on the planet who isn't working under the table. Yes, you can't have this job.
Keith McHenry can't have that job. Sorry. And he just feeds people. Such an asshole, right? He feeds people. God, what is he thinking?
Dude, it's kind of...
I know. We live in a cartoon. Really I know.
Is. I ran into somebody at our event in Echo Park on the 3rd, and they were a Food Not Bombs volunteer from like somewhere up in Oregon, and they were trying to connect with the LA Food Not Bombs people. And I'm like, I have no idea, but I can put you on the phone with the founder. Maybe he does. And so at the event, I called Keith, and he ended up talking to this dude for like 25 minutes. Dude gets off the phone. He's like, "You're my hero." No, I just have a phone number.
But to some people, that's cool. Like, that's super cool that you just hook them up with a 25-minute conversation with Keith McHenry.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I was pretty pumped when you got me an interview with Keith McHenry. So, I mean, you're not my hero. You kind of are my hero, but
I don't need to be anybody.
No, I agree.
You should all be your own hero.
Yeah.
You should.
Word up. I'm not that cool.
Do we want to close
nobody's
out?
that cool.
Is there more stuff?
Yeah. Do you have anything else to plug, Boykanen? Do you have any? I mean, I know you got like 754 shows lined up between now and Tuesday. So. Here comes the list.
Tomorrow we are doing the Internet of Things thing. Thursday, Matt Orfala is going to drop by the show. We're going to talk about Satan. I don't know. Friday, get your shit together. The internet's premier call-in show. Saturday, I don't normally do a show on Saturday, but I've been trying to get an interview with this lady for a while, and we had a schedule mix up, and then I was traveling. But Tessa Fights Robots, she will be on Saturday. That'll be a fantastic show. Sabby Sabs is going to be on.
Back up. Like Fights Robots, you mean like BattleBots Fights Robots? Or
no. Her author name is Tessa Fights Robots.
Okay.
She's incredible. She got a ton of great stuff, but she has a piece called The Great Reset for Dummies, which if there's anyone in your life that like you're having a hard time explaining this to because you've only heard like us and Whitney talk about it, and you're like, oh shit, I need advanced degrees. Like you don't. I
always feel like the guy with the strings.
Great Reset for Dummies, a fantastic piece. She will be on. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. And then August 20th and 21st in Colorado.
I'll be there.
Yeah, Misty will be there. I will be there. I think we've got Franco like most of the way convinced to come. And then so I'm leaning on Nico. We're talking to Pasta and Fee about it too. We're trying
let's go, fams.
Do a whole MCSC network invasion. I like Denver, Colorado, and I would love to go fuck off in the mountains for a day and go for a team hike. That would be fun.
Team building experience.
Time you have there, Misty, but
I can sneak away from some stuff. I got some obligation stuff, but I can, yeah.
But I feel like we should be gassing up that event already. even though it's 5 weeks out. Like why
I can gas it. Let's go.
The plugin. We had a really, like, that was a good event there in Denver. There were some great speakers, made some good connections, got to meet one of the Flowbots, and would like to have that dude come and speak again, or do, spoken word, perform, whatever. But he was great, dude. He was great. And then there was something else. There really was. Oh yeah, I'll be piecing together all the footage I shot, and then I should be releasing the documentary by September. Would like to, at least. And dude, that's going to be such a massive project.
I don't envy you. All that editing makes my head hurt just thinking about
I'm
it.
in over my head, dude. Going over my head. Let's see. We do have a GoFundMe. It is what is going to keep the lights on for the show and like a roof over our heads. So if you can, please donate. If you can't, share the link. It's my pinned tweet at Slow News Day Show. And then I think that's it. I don't know. Oh, just because I want people to watch it and it'll be fun. Not this Thursday, but the following. I will be back on Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli.
Nice.
Always. I haven't done one of those since like 2019. It's been a very long time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
He's funny. He makes me laugh. He's funny.
Dude, Sam Tripoli is one of the hardest working people I have ever met in my entire life. Like the dude's got like 8 fucking podcasts. He's got like he tours all, he's still like all over the place. Has like all these people that he's trying to bring up, and trying to help out. And yeah, dude, the head of comedy development at Rockfin now.
Nice.
Yeah, he's why like Tom Segura and
A whole
Tony
shit ton of
Kinsler
comedians
and
joined.
Chrissy Marr and just some murderers, man.
Yeah, there was like an
killers.
explosion of comedy at Rockfin over the past, I don't know, like 6 months or something. So he's doing a good job, whatever he's doing. Jesus.
Yeah, no, just straight killers over there.
Yeah,
it is.
If you're into comedy, go check out Rockfin, and you can endorse Slow News Day while you're there. That will help with their going full time.
My dirty secret is that the A4A account is like a creator account, so we can see everyone's premium content for free. But if you're not me, you should pay for the $10.90 or $9.99.
$9.99.
Whoever, because
and then you get all of the content for free, all the premium content. It's a good time, good wholesome fun for everyone.
Rewind through a Jimmy Dore show while it's happening too. Dirty secret.
Okay, so I'm Misty. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I have another show called Facts on the Ground. We just interviewed Matt Orfala and talked about all the bullshit YouTube censorship that's going on. We need you guys to make some noise for him. And for anybody who's dealing with that kind of censorship, we have to fight back against that. Like a lot of people keep saying, well, just leave YouTube. And no, we need to fight back against this. It's not okay what's happening. So definitely check out that episode. Check out when he's on with Steve. And then
you just talked to Allison Morrow too, huh?
Yeah. She was
she's
on
fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. She was funny. She didn't have very long because her kid was just waking up from a nap. So her producer interrupted us about midway through, but she was awesome.
I spent about 2 hours with her the other morning. I think it was yesterday morning.
She's a former mainstream journalist kind of person and got out.
Yeah,
very interesting.
I think the interview itself was like an hour and 20 minutes, but we ended up, talking
front side, back side,
about 2 hours and very, very good conversation. I think that like what she's doing is so incredibly beneficial to what we do. Because she really is going to catch a number of people who are just leaving that mainstream space. And based on what she covers and who she talks to, that like cuts a whole bunch of bullshit out.
Yeah.
for the people who would normally get stuck with like Dave Rubin or TYT or something like that.
David Pakman
yeah.
or Sam Cedar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
No,
like those midpoint
fantastic.
people. That's kind of like, I kind of try to keep facts that way, where it's like a midpoint in between. So it's not too overwhelming. I'm kind of like the entry door into the MCSC. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to finagle there. But yeah, she's pretty great. Also I have Bitch, of course, every Wednesday at 7. Tomorrow is going to be awesome. We have 3 of the 4 ladies from Fred Hampton Leftists. We have Jackie has to work, so she can't come, but we have Meg, Afeni, and Sabby coming on, which should be fire. I love all of them. I'm super excited. I've already done something with Sabby, so I'm excited to get to meet Meg and Afeni for the first time. I'm big fans of them, so that's going to be a blast. So check that out tomorrow at 7. And what else do I have? I don't know. I always forget shit and it drives me nuts. I always
Medicare for All rally.
July
26th.
24th. So
Columbus
July
State House,
24th.
West Plaza.
July 24th at the Columbus State House. I'm going to be the MC of the Columbus March for Medicare for All. So you can come and check that out. Jesse Jett's going to be performing. I'm really excited that I get to introduce him on stage. That makes my heart happy. So definitely come check that out if you're in the area, and hang out with us. And I think that's it now. I'm pretty sure that's it. Daniel's billboard thing. Make sure you're donating to the billboard campaign in North Carolina. Once again, I'll be picking up it's in the description. Once again, I'll be picking up the Ohio one as we get closer to football season, because I want to get that one outside of Ohio Stadium for sure. That's going to be lots of eyes on that. So I'll probably launch that at the beginning of August so that we can get ready for, I think October 20th is the day that I want to get that started again. So I think that's it. I think I'm done now.
The one other thing that we have going on is the End the Damn Wars protest for September 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe a little longer. But I did put the link in chat for everyone to take a look at that, and then there's going to be more information coming out about that as we get a little bit closer, but we will be launching a GoFundMe for that, or some mechanism of money for that relatively soon. Link's also in the description. But yeah, like Steve said, just be your own hero. Do what you can with the time and money you have.
Hold on. I forgot. Randy Credico is going to be organizing some events maybe next week in DC. I don't know what else going on for sure, but I'll keep you guys updated as I get more information about that.
And we're potentially having an Assange action last weekend of this month in LA.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Let us know and we'll promo that too.
Team
So much coming up, y'all. So much.
It's time, man.
It is.
Look, if we've only got a short window of free assembly left, let's make the most.
Let's use it. Yeah.
I have to find a way to follow up on it, but Misty and I were invited to be speakers at Revolution, the Libertarian
No, they want like
convention.
lots of money. No, we're not doing that shit. They want like I don't know, like $3,000 just to even
for you to go?
Like to get in?
They want
just to get. They want me to. Yeah, they want us to pay. Like the guy came up to me at our event in Columbus, and he's like, "Yeah, we could totally have you to this thing, and it would be really nice to have an Assange group there." And I'm like, "Totally, I'll go to Florida for that. Like, I'll pay for my own travel and all that stuff to do that and to be able to talk Assange. Absolutely." And then he sends me this email, and I'll send it to you guys. It's like they want like $3,500 for like a basic table. Fuck off, dude. We don't. No, we're in a like.
Okay. They didn't want you to come speak. They wanted you to be a vendor.
Like a vendor. We're not a vendor, fam. We're not. No. So no, I don't think we're gonna be doing that.
That's
right, because you'd have to bring $14,000 worth of merch.
No, not doing it. That's not. I don't know why they ever thought that would be something that we would be interested in doing. I would love to go and just be able. I don't even need to like speak, but if I could just like have a table like while people are milling about and we can hand out informational packets and talk to people as they're walking around, that would still be cool. But I'm not paying to go there.
Or just go and raise hell outside. Like that's what
we could.
Doing.
We could. I mean, I'm down for that. Hey, by the way, Andrew, Joe Biden's going to be in Cincinnati, I think, next week.
Okay.
We may have to. I may have to do a little something. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know if I can swing it, but we'll see.
I'm done.
Anyway, sorry.
I got a step
distraction.
I got to print new posters. I'm like out. Like I'm out. Like this is the first
Spider
time
monkey
in like 28 months that I've run out of posters.
Oh, you're out of posters?
I'm out of posters. Well, I have some, but not.
Right. Yeah. I have some. Yeah.
But thank you, everybody. We will see you on Saturday.